back to This Real America's Voice Newsbreak. I'm Terrence Bates. President Trump continues to stand up for religious liberty. During a meeting with members of the White House Religious Liberty Commission at the Museum of the Bible this morning, the commander-in-chief delivered remarks saying that we have to bring back religion in America. He also announced having donated his family Bible to the museum in order to be put on display. But arguably most importantly, he used the stage to support students practicing their faith at school.
In many schools today, students are instead indoctrinated with anti-religious propaganda, and some are even punished for their religious beliefs, and very, very strongly punished. It's ridiculous. I'm pleased to announce this morning that the Department of Education will soon issue new guidance protecting the right to prayer in our public schools, and it's total protection.
And speaking of faith, the president attributes the two failed assassination attempts against him to God's protection. Jury selection in the case of the man accused of trying to assassinate then presidential candidate Donald Trump is underway as we speak. Ryan Ruth's trial is off to a bit of a rocky start, though, as the judge overseeing the case is banning him from asking a number of politically charged questions of the potential jurors. Ruth is representing himself in the case despite having little to no legal training. He's accused of trying to kill Mr. Trump while he golfed in Florida last September. Federal Judge Aileen Cannon has blocked off 4 weeks for the upcoming trial, even though prosecutors don't expect it to last that long. The 59-year-old has pleaded not guilty to attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate, assaulting a federal officer, and several firearms violations. At least 5 people are dead, 12 more hurt after terrorists opened fire on a bus stop in Jerusalem and send people running for their lives, as you can see in this video. Hamas is applauding the attack but not claiming responsibility at this point. In the meantime, the Israeli military has reportedly surrounded Palestinian villages on the outskirts of the nearby city of Ramallah in response to the attack. As for the shootings, police say a security officer and a civilian at the scene are said to have shot and killed the attackers. It all went down at a busy intersection in North Jerusalem. That's a quick check of your headlines.
Relentless in spirit. You're listening to The Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Let's see what we have here. My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is incredible. September is National Preparedness Month, so it's the perfect time to ask yourself questions like, how much food do you have on hand for emergencies? And how would you get clean water if the tap went dry tomorrow? What would you do if a storm knocked out the power for a week? If you're anything like me, there's some room for improvement on this stuff. Luckily, our friends at My Patriot Supply are making disaster preparedness easier and more affordable than ever. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com by giving you over $1,500 worth of emergency food and preparedness for free. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com. They just launched their Preparedness Month Mega Kit and includes a full year of emergency food, a water filtration system, and all the other stuff you need. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com. That is MyPatriotSupply.com. For full details, MyPatriotSupply.com/KIRK. Alex Marlow is with us. Alex Marlow is the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, Breitbart.com. Alex, great to see you. The terrible news of Iryna Zarate Scott getting stabbed in the neck and the silence from the media. I mean, you've done a great job of covering the media throughout the years. This was an intentional cover-up campaign by not covering this at all from the major media networks. Yet George Floyd dies. Everyone covers this relentlessly, tens of thousands of articles a day. Alex Marlow, your thoughts?
Yeah, Charlie, you couldn't have scripted this. I mean, it felt like this story was out of 15 years ago or something, that the media wasn't covering it after all of this purported hand-wringing that's been going on, that they've been really looking themselves in the mirror, see where they've gone wrong, why the media is the least trusted industry of any industry in America. And then they have the easiest opportunity ever to get a little bit of credibility just by writing up the biggest story in America. And they won't even write it. They won't put one column inch into it in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Completely ridiculous, but it's something that we all could have seen coming. And it just shows you what we discussed on your show like 5 days ago, Charlie. This is shaping up to be a law and order election. The next election, as of now, it's a long ways off, Law and order is the number one topic. And you could see a guy been arrested 14 times, a Ukrainian refugee out of nowhere. There's no context for it at all. There's no provocation at all. There's video of it. This is the nightmare for the left so long as we get the word out. And that's why the media covered it up.
And yeah, talk more about this. So let's go a level deeper here, Alex, because how do these newsrooms operate? Because what we are articulating is a conspiracy. We are articulating a silence conspiracy of media networks that intentionally do not cover it. How does this work in practice? Is there a group chat where they say, no, we're not going to do it? Obviously, I think that's unlikely. But is it also that they just have a narrative that they're trying to accomplish and they all know the goal? Because when you have a dozen outlets, MSNBC, New York Times, BBC, Wall Street Journal, ABC, CBS, NBC, boom, 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 boom. And they all technically have different owners and different editors and different reporters, and not one covers this story. What's going on here? How do they harmonize with such incredible efficiency?
Yeah, they're so coached up, and they've been coached up for decades on this. And you've been so kind to promote all my books lately. But my first book, Breaking the News, which I wrote about 4 years ago, I tracked this. It's all corporatism. It's all about that the corporate boardrooms of all these media companies are controlled by people who want Democrats elected. They see that they're the true oligarchs. You're Bernie Sanders talking about oligarchs. These are the real oligarchs. And the problem is you cover stories like this and it looks bad for the left because they want to talk about George Floyd where there's no element of racism that was involved at all. And they treat it like that was the biggest racial hate crime of all time, even though George Floyd was on drugs and was resisting arrest. So then you have an example like this where you see a black guy stabbing a white woman for no reason. How else could you view this other than as racism if you looked at the world through the lens of the establishment left? And so they know if they cover this clear example of racism, then that nullifies times 100 any of the George Floyd covers they've already done. So they can't cover it. They have to ignore it and hope it just goes away because to cover it reveals that they've been lying to us the whole time, which they have been.
And so the incentive structure of the media is so broken, and we've been waiting for their collapse, and they're not quite collapsed, but they're definitely in a situation of decay, you could say. The right-wing world online has been largely covering this and has been kind of keeping it alive. Why did this become a bigger story just because of the video? What about the video was so animating? Because it was very interesting. I was in Japan and South Korea, and someone in Japan mentioned, hey, Charlie, you hear what happened to the Ukrainian girl in America? I said, yeah, didn't that happen 2 weeks ago? Because I actually saw the story when it originally happened. I said, a Ukrainian refugee. They said, no, it just happened. And actually it didn't just happen. It happened 2 weeks ago. Just the video was just out there. Can we get the still image of this, though, just on screen for dramatic effect? Alex Marlow.
Yeah, so first of all, to your first point, I think it's really important to note that the incentive structure, you use the word incentive structure, these media companies all lose money. They all lose money. And that's why they stay in business, because they protect the corporate status quo. You take a company like ABC, which is part of ABC Disney. So the ABC News can lose money because they're protecting brands like the Disney brand, which can make a lot of money through theme parks and through movies and through streaming and stuff like that. So ABC exists to cover for the Disney brand. NBC, Comcast, Universal. NBC News loses money. NBC News is designed to keep the NBC, Comcast, Universal, that entire structure afloat. And if you look at their board, it's all top Democrat donors and people who are fat and happy living off of America's largesse. And those are the type of people who are being protected by these newsrooms. That's why they don't do stuff like report on China accurately, because there's no incentive to, because their corporations all make money off of China. You look at New York Times' boardroom, it's all people who are AIG and Facebook and all these executives from all these other major corporations. And once you see that, then you understand what they're choosing to cover and what they're not choosing to cover. So, but to your point about the video shows the innocence of it. This is public transportation, small white blonde girl, and a black guy who's in a rage out of nowhere, no provocation at all, no interaction at all. The clear nature of, I'm seeing this person, I'm taking out all of the rage I've ever had in my life on her like that. And that it's unequivocal because of the video evidence. There's no way to spin it. There's no way to act like there's any sort of a justification or explanation for it. And that does make it all the more powerful.
Alex, there's another, I want to shift gears here a second. I think that's the right analysis. There's a new poll out, according to NBC News. Steve Kornacki released it. From men who voted for Trump versus women who voted for Harris. Men who voted for Trump, they asked what was the important to personal definition of success. 34% of men who voted for Trump believe having children is more important than anything else, even more important than financial independence and a fulfilling job and career. For women who voted for Harris, 51%, the most important thing for them, having a fulfilling job and career. The last thing, the least important thing for women who voted for Harris is having children. This is like a bombshell, shocking thing. We knew that some of this existed, but we did not know it was this dramatic. The last thing, the least important thing for them is having children. Having children is right there at 6%. Being married is 6%, at the very bottom of the poll. I guess it's technically second to last because fame and influence is the last, but based on what I was looking at. Alex Marlow, what explains this? Why do so many Democrat women want to die alone?
Yeah, it is remarkable. And they've all been coached up. And it's the way that we've run our institutions, from our culture to our media to the way things are promoted online. You look at your favorite female podcast host, aside from the great right-wing political ones. But if it is not a right-wing political show hosted by a female, they probably got an episode on why I waited to have kids or why I don't need a man. All of that stuff happens all the time, and it's getting through to people who look out on the world and they feel like, well, it sounds very expensive to have kids. It sounds very hard. And all of these cultural inputs are saying that you're going to be less happy. And the left tries to deny our biology constantly. It explains the whole trans phenomenon. They teach people to deny their biology nonstop. Just look at the whole what we witnessed last week with Robert Kennedy. All these people who deny science, trying to lecture him on science. That is the nature of the world that we're living in. And telling women to not have kids clearly has had an effect on some people. But there has been a backlash, and you're seeing that in the positive side of this poll, which are young men who are seeing more than ever having children is a positive. That is a complete rebuke of the system, which is telling young men that what you need to do is you need to play the field. You need to be free to be able to sow your wild oats or whatever. That was the environment I grew up in, Charlie, but there's been people like you, people like me, who are out there saying, actually, it's really rewarding to get married and have a family and have children. That's the best thing you can do. Clearly, that message is getting through. So there's a huge level of positivity with the men, but the women, I feel bad for them right now because they're getting lied to by everyone.
Yeah, and again, so it's just more about the poll. So women who voted for Kamala Harris, liberal women, they were asked what are the top three things to rank them. And they didn't even have to consider kids and marriage being top three. Let me just read the entire poll. This goes to show why liberal women are so unhappy, why so many liberal women are on antidepressants, why so many liberal women are just neurotic and just so unattractive to young men. Because their number one thing is fulfilling job and career, then having the money to do things you want, having emotional stability. This hyper narcissistic. Liberal women inherently are incredibly narcissistic. Fulfilling job and career, having money that you want. What's the number one thing for men? Men want children. Now, what's amazing is that conservative women too, Trump voting women did not put children as a top 5 goal. This is a problem that transcends political lines. This is again, it's way worse, obviously, on the left, but it's still bad on the right. And It's the men who want kids. It's the men who want children. It's the men who want marriage. Again, we have a minute remaining here. What are the implications of this for our politics, Alex Marlow?
Yeah, we need a rejection of modern feminism, which has told women that you'll be happiest if you act like a man. And this is something that is not true. I think they all know it's not true. But there's also the problem, which is that life is expensive and people want to make money as much as possible. And so thus they will maybe tell themselves that I'll be happiest if I focus on that and not on family. But the focus has to be on family, and you have to use that to drive you to create a family unit that creates a lot of success. So we just need to keep the positive messages coming in as much as we can control it, Charlie, and pray that it gets through to as many people as possible.
Alex Marlow is author of Breaking the Law. That is Breaking the Law. I've so much more to say about this. It's just a shocking poll. And again, this is bad civilizationally, everybody, where women who voted for Harris, the least important thing, second least important thing, is having children. It's bad news. That is a hyper-narcissistic generation of women that will have a lot of cats, a lot of antidepressants, a lot of wine, and no children. Right? They follow their leader. Kamala Harris has no biological children. Stay right there, Alex Marlow. What do we have, guys? Oh. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Do me a favor, take out your phone and subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. That is the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. I now know what I think we should invest in. I think that a high growth industry in the next 10 years will be veterinarians. I think we should invest. What is a good veterinarian stock? Or like a harbor away my dog stock? Find that for me. That will be a growth industry. Be right back.